Hi. Well, here we have a melody, and the challenge is to name the key. It's quite important to develop that skill for a musician, so we always know which key we're playing in, and it's often a component in theory exams looking at something, trying to work out which key it's in. And just to make the task a little bit more concealed, here's an example of a melody that doesn't use a key signature, but has various accidentals thrown at notes as we go through. And as you can see, there are quite a lot of accidentals in this melody, which makes it look very slightly intimidating. But let's have a look and see how we might go about the task. And the first thing we might just want to have a little sort of snapshot thought about is, are we in a major key or are we in a minor key? And you might think, well, how am I supposed to know the answer to that? Well, there is a clue in the middle of this phrase. And let me point it out straight away. If you look at this bar, you can see we have an F sharp followed by an E sharp. Later in the same bar, E natural, and then we've got a D natural. We don't particularly need to have that natural sign there. It's what we call a cautionary accidental. So I've just thrown in an example where sometimes a composer puts in a cautionary accidental. In other words, an accidental that you don't particularly need, but where it's possible a player might be slightly confused. So there's an example of one that might just get slipped in. So don't let that put you off in any way, because D natural, there's no reason to worry about it. But the clue is here: E sharp, E natural. Now, why would you have E sharp and E natural, particularly in the same phrase and particularly at such close quarters? Well, one possibility is that we've modulated. In other words, we've moved from one key to another key. But I can tell you for nothing, that's not happening in this exercise. So there's only one particular explanation. If we've got an E sharp there and then we've got an E natural soon after it, it's telling us that we're in a minor key. Now, why would it tell us that? If we are in a melodic minor use of the minor key, then we would expect the 6th and the 7th degrees to be raised as the scale goes up. When we're coming down, the 6th and the 7th are not raised in the same way. So coming down, they're a semitone lower than they are going up. So if you know about melodic minor scales, this is something that will make complete sense to you. So when you're designing a melodic minor scale and you're coming down from the top of the octave to the bottom of the octave, you follow the key signature. Whatever it says in the key signature, that's what you need. When you're going up in a melodic minor, when you're using an ascending form of the minor scale, whatever it says in the key signature, when you come to numbers 6 and 7, you raise those two notes by a semitone. Now, in reality, in a piece of music, you might find there's a bit of a mixture going on if you're in a minor key. We might be using a little bit of harmonic minor here. We might be using a little bit of melodic minor there. We might be using a melodic minor scale that behaves itself, that goes up with the raised 6 and 7 and comes down following the key signature. We may even have a melody using a melodic minor scale, but the wrong way round. So we're using the ascending form coming down a bit, or vice versa. All these things happen in a real piece of music. You don't need to worry too much about that. But let me suggest that this E sharp, E natural thing is a big clue. Not only does it tell us that we're probably in a minor key, it's also telling us that the E sharp, E natural thing is probably something to do with the 6th or the 7th degree of the scale. Because as we've just recapped, those are the two notes that get messed around when you are in a melodic minor scale. It's more likely, this isn't 100% true, but it's more likely that the 7th degree of the scale has been altered. The 6th could well be as well, but there'll be more alterations to the 7th degree than to the 6th. So it could be telling us that E sharp, E natural is the 7th degree of a minor scale. So that could be an interesting clue, because if we're dealing with E something, well, Could it be that if we're in a minor key, the tonic is F something? So is it F minor? It could be F sharp minor. Those are the options, aren't they, really? If you think about that for a moment, it's never going to be F minor, because if you know your way around your keys and your circle of fifths, you'll know that F minor has got 4 flats. Well, here's a piece of music plastered in sharps. If you're in F sharp minor, then the circle of fifths will tell you that that's a key that's got 3 sharps in it. Well, it's nearer, isn't it, than F minor. So we may just sort of store that thought away, that maybe if it's in a minor key, it's in F sharp minor. Okay, let's work with that theory for a moment. In F sharp minor, the key signature would be 3 sharps: F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. Let's have a look. Well, we've certainly got F sharp, haven't we, sitting here. There's another F sharp there, there's another one there, there's another one at the end. So yeah, F sharp seems to be certainly established, doesn't it? What about C sharp? Well, yeah, one right at the beginning there. There's another C sharp there, there's another one there. So C sharp is pretty well established as well. What about G sharp? Well, here we are, third note. There's a G sharp, and there's another one that creeps up near the end. So we seem to have those 3 sharps, don't we, that belong to F sharp minor. We better just kind of check about what the next sharp would be, because the 4th sharp would be D sharp. Well, we don't seem to have any D sharps, do we? And we've got a D natural there, so it's not kind of pointing us in that direction particularly, is it? But we do need to notice something else, and we've already talked about it. If you think F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, it accounts for nearly all the sharps in this, you know, F sharp, G sharp, C sharp, F sharp, you know, C sharp, F sharp, G sharp, F sharp. That's those 3 sharps we've identified, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. But we have got this E sharp here. Now, if you work around the circle of fifths, you'd be thinking, well, that's a bit odd, because I've got the first 3 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, but then I haven't got the next sharps, have I, like D sharp and A sharp. So it's a long way until I come to E sharp. Now, if you were in a major key, you wouldn't be missing sharps out. You'd have sharps 1, 2, 3, and if there were more sharps, you'd have number 4 and number 5, and so on. If you find you've got the first 3 sharps like we have, and then we've got a gap because we haven't got a D sharp or an A sharp, but then we have got an E sharp, that gap, those missing sharps or missing flats, is also telling you you're in a minor key. So that's helping to confirm things, isn't it? Now, we did say that the most likely explanation for this E sharp in relation to the E natural is that E sharp might well be the 7th degree of the scale. Now think about this. If we're in F sharp minor, E sharp would be the raised 7th degree of the scale. If the key signature's got F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, E would be natural, as it is here in the key signature. But if we're going to raise it, E natural is going to become E sharp. Well, in the harmonic minor scale, we're going to raise the 7th degree going up and coming down, so E natural becomes E sharp. In the melodic minor scale, we're going to raise the 6th and the 7th going up, so D and E become D sharp and E sharp, and coming down, E natural, D natural. So that's the big thing that confirms the F sharp minor, because that is the 7th degree, both in its raised form and not in its raised form. Are there other clues? Well, the last note is a nice long F sharp, so looks as if it finishes on the tonic note on the F sharp. At the beginning, you might be saying to me, well, it's not F sharp at the beginning, it's C sharp. But this initial C sharp is an anacrusis. In other words, it's a note or notes that come before the first bar line. It's a kind of sort of upbeat before we get going. And so the first thing that happens on a main beat is F sharp. If it goes dominant tonic, the 5th degree of the scale to the 1st degree of the scale, that's also confirming that we might be going from the 5th to the 1st of F sharp minor, which is what's happening here. Then when it comes to it, it's great to be able to look through the melody and have some idea what it sounds like just by looking at it. If that's something that's difficult to do at the moment, try playing it on your instrument and just make sure you've got all the sharps in. It's a good little sight reading exercise anyway. But then try to hear where it's homing in. Is it really homing in on the F sharp as the tonic or not? Let's have a listen. So at the beginning, you get C sharp down to F sharp. So if I put some chords, you'll hear it. So you feel that that F sharp is a kind of homing in note. And you hear, particularly when we get to the end, that we really feel as if we've gone home to the first degree of the scale, to the tonic F sharp. And it feels minor, doesn't it? There's no sense of it feeling or sounding like it's in a major key. So lots of evidence there for why that piece of music is in the key of F sharp minor.